No Days Off, presented by Ralphie's and YarkAuto.com, continues now as Eric and St. John's soccer coach Tom Shook look back on his unlikely journey to the sidelines.
Through the culmination of seasons, there's got to be maybe a team or something that a team has accomplished or a kid has accomplished that maybe you didn't think would happen, or that you were surprised or that you were encouraged by. Any of those thoughts come back to you after this kind of long tenure?
Well, there really three teams come back to me really well, and the team I had in '91 and '92 with Joe Calkins, Mike Binkowski, all those, we won 35 games in 2 years.
At Maumee.
At Maumee High School,
yep.
And we were district champs both years and got to the regional final 1 year, semis the next year. That was really the first big state-ranked team we had. Mm-hmm. And that was, of course, the Maumee youth soccer community at that time, and all those people bringing those kids up. My second year at Anthony Wayne with Brandon Bucher and Travis Baltz and those guys, and we lost in the district finals that year, but we were ranked in the state the whole year, and actually scored our own goal to lose the district tournament that year. And then the Final Four team here in 2015 was a pretty special team too, and those three teams really stand out because they were very good teams. But you know, those kids back in the early 80s where I knew nothing about soccer. I had played lacrosse in college. I was interviewing for the science job, and the superintendent principal, like, do you know anything about soccer? And I had a wife and kid at the time, so I'm like, I need a job. And I said, yeah. And so I said, well, get me a job. And they're like, sure. And so they hired me, and you know, I learned as I went. I remember showing up to that first practice with about 3 soccer books in my hand, and luckily there were some people in the Bavarian organization that kind of called me up and said, hey, we can give you some pointers, stuff like that. And Joan Hankinson, who lived in Maumee, also knew some soccer. So, you know, people were very generous in my early years. And then also not so much soccer, but the other coaches at Maumee that I was influenced by, the Bob Boyles, Hal LaFontaine, Bob Tomasic, Dave Duguay, all those wonderful role models I had as a young coach to really know how to do it right. So I learned the soccer, but I learned the coaching from those guys, and then that's big.
You hear about this, but this is amazing to me that there are people who say, yeah, I know about it, and get the job, and here you go. I mean, so you're literally, you go home and tell your wife, you said, hey, I got the job, and I'm coaching soccer. And she's saying, what? What did she say to you?
She was like, well, they were happy we got the job because it was like, now we can start living a life and a career now.
Sure.
But she's like, when have you ever played soccer? And I said, well, I played little intramurals for my fraternity in college. And she's like, what are you going to do? And I said, well, anything in life you learn, you know, that's why you go to college, to learn.
Right.
And, you know, it's just been a gradual process. And then about 28 years old, I started playing soccer in a men's league. And of course, there were a lot of European people in that league, and they would take me aside. And I always kept an open mind and learned a lot, just like coaching wrestling too. I never coached wrestling in my life. And Mike McDermott said in the lounge one day, hey, Tom, do you want to coach wrestling? I don't know any. He goes, we'll teach you. He goes, you know how to work with kids, and that's half the battle.
Right. So. There was no internet in 1980. So I mean, you said, so what, you literally went to the library and just started, you know, reading about?
Yeah, library and Thackeray bookstore over there at Westgate. It was like, I needed half a dozen books on soccer, and I remember that year for Christmas, like everybody that knew me got me a book on soccer.
What did the kids think? Because I'm sure these kids had played, or some of them had played since they were kids. Did they see through that, or did they, you know?
Actually, very few had ever played soccer. We only had about 4 kids that had actually played. Because you think back about it, there was really no youth soccer.
True.
Bavarians had a little German group out there in Oakshade Grove. And Anthony Wayne had their program up and running at that time. Roger Simpson did a great job out there. So there wasn't that. It wasn't like I was walking into a job here where you didn't know anything about soccer. You would be exposed big time because all these kids have played forever. But really, there were only about 3 kids. Brett Dower was like our best guy on that team because he had played before. And he did stuff that I got mad at, but now Eli does it out here, Dane does it out here. Now it's like, hey, good job. You know, it was just the whole mindset of that going on, but it was really cool. And the parents were very supportive, and you know, I told the kids right out, I said, we're going to learn together, and we're going to, you know, I said, but I do know how to compete, and I do know how to, you know, I played for Jim Plon at BG for lacrosse, and his conditioning program was just killer. So, you know, we we've conditioned the heck out of our kids ever since, and always been a lot of our successes because of that.
More with Coach Shook coming your way on Tuesday.